All right, today we're going to get into what I like to call the engine room of ISO 27001, the performance evaluation clauses. Look, this isn't just about ticking boxes for an auditor. It's about knowing, for real, if your security is actually doing its job. So let's jump right in. So here's how we'll break it down. We're going to follow the logic of the standard itself. We'll start with the big picture, the evaluation engine. Then we'll see how we get the raw data through monitoring, check our work with audits, and finally, how leadership makes the big decisions in the management review. It's all about one thing, getting better all the time. Okay, first things first, let's get our heads in the right space. Clause 9, it's not just some random checklist. You got to think of it as a single, powerful system. And it's a system built to answer one really important question.
And that question is this: how do you prove your security is actually working? I mean, anybody can say they have controls, but how do you show hard, cold evidence that what you've built is actually effective? That's the challenge, right? And that's exactly what Clause 9 is for. Because without proof, everything else is just, well, it's just talk. So to make this all feel a bit more real, let's use an analogy. Think of your entire security system, your ISMS, like a car. Monitoring, that's your dashboard. It's giving you all the live data, your speed, your fuel, maybe a check engine light. Then you've got auditing. That's like the official state inspection, right? An independent mechanic comes in and gives it a thorough once-over to make sure it's road safe. And finally, the management review, that's you, the car owner looking at the dashboard data and the inspection report and deciding, okay, what's next? Do I need an oil change, new brakes, or is it time to upgrade the whole engine? See how they all work together? They give you a full picture of your car's health. Okay, so where does it all begin? With the data. Always with the data. Clause 9.1 is the absolute foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. If you don't have good, reliable data coming in from your monitoring, the whole thing just falls apart. And the standard is super specific about this. It basically makes you answer 6 key questions. It's not enough to just say what you're going to monitor. You have to define how you'll do it, when it'll happen, and who is responsible. But it doesn't stop there. You also have to define when that data gets analyzed and who does the analysis. It feels like a lot, but this whole structure is there for a reason, to make sure there's no confusion and everyone knows exactly what their job is. And this right here is a really crucial point from the standard. It says your methods have to produce comparable and reproducible results. What does that mean? Well, think about it. If you and I both measure the same thing, but we get completely different answers, that data is worthless, right? You can't make decisions with it. Getting this right, making sure your data is valid, is how you build trust with management. It's how you turn a bunch of numbers into information they can actually use. Okay, so we're collecting data. Awesome. But how do we know it's right? How do we check our own work? Well, that's where Clause 9.2, the internal audit, comes into play. Going back to our car analogy, this is the state inspection. It's that formal, objective look to make sure we're really doing all the things we say we are.
And here's a detail that a lot of people actually miss. The audit isn't just one check, it's 2. First, the auditor asks, are you following your own rules, your own policies and procedures? Then they ask, and are you also following the rules of the ISO 27001 standard? You have to pass both checks. It's about conforming to your promises and the standard's requirements.
Now, to make sure this whole process isn't just a random spot check, the standard says you need a formal audit program. That means you have to clearly define what you're auditing and why. You have to pick auditors who are truly impartial. That's a big one for credibility. And you've got to make sure the results actually get in front of the right managers so something can be done about them. And look, here's that phrase again, documented information. The standard is relentless about this. You need a paper trail for everything. Your whole audit program, the results, all of it has to be written down. Because for an auditor, it's simple. If it isn't documented, it never happened. End of story.
All right, let's recap. We've got our data, we've had it checked by an audit. So, now what? Now comes the payoff. This is Clause 9.3, the management review. This is the moment where all that hard work gets in front of top management. It's where they take all this information and use it to steer the ship. This is where the real strategic decisions get made.
So this review meeting isn't just a free-for-all. It has a very specific agenda, a list of required inputs. The first batch is all about context. They'll look at things like, hey, what happened with the action items from our last meeting? Or has anything changed in the business or with our clients? This is all about grounding the conversation in what's happening right now.
Then they dive into the performance data. And this is where you see it all connect.
Remember that monitoring data from 9.1? It's on the table. Those audit results from 9.2? Yep, they're on the table too. And they don't just look at them one by one. They combine them with things like nonconformity trends and risk assessment results. The goal is to build one big, clear, evidence-based picture of how healthy the security program really is.
And let me be clear, this management review is not a nice-to-have chat. It's not a book club. It has to produce results, what the standard calls outputs. And what are those outputs? Decisions. Real, actual decisions. Based on everything they just heard, leadership has to identify opportunities to improve and figure out what needs to change in the security system. This is what turns talk into action.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. You've got monitoring, auditing, and management review. But the key thing to realize is that this isn't a one-and-done linear process. It's a loop, a powerful, repeating cycle that constantly pushes the whole system to get better.
And here's exactly how that engine turns over. Step 1, management makes a decision. Step 2, that decision leads to a change in the security program. Step 3, our monitoring system starts measuring how effective that change is. Step 4, an internal audit comes along to verify that the new process is actually working the way it's supposed to. And Step 5, all that new data, the monitoring results, the audit findings, becomes fuel for the next management review. The loop is complete. And that's how you get better.
So at the end of the day, Claw 9 is so much more than a box you have to check. It is the engine that drives continual improvement for your entire security program. And the question I want to leave you with is pretty simple. How smoothly is your engine running?